Okay, hello everyone and welcome. It's just 3:02, so probably is a good time to start. It is a pleasure to see such a strong interest in our PhD studentships in Transformative Humanities here at Durham University. This is our information and QA sessions. We will have a presentation and there will then be the opportunity for you to ask us questions about this scheme. My name is Alberto Rigolio, and I serve as Associate Dean for Postgraduate Research in the Faculty of Arts and Humanities here at Durham University. Transformative Humanities is our flagship initiative. It is a way of focusing the power of arts and humanities to address complex real-world challenges, from health and environment to issues of social justice and policy. Our PhD studentships in Transformative Humanities are supported by the Arts and Humanities Research Council, the Faculty of Arts and Humanities, and the Faculty of Social Sciences. This scheme offers a collaborative platform to undertake world-leading research. So today, before we delve into the details of this scheme, I would like to introduce three key colleagues who are joining our session today. So with us today is Professor Robert Song, who is an expert in bioethics and social theology. Professor Song will be offering a short presentation on the vision and core themes of our Transformative Humanities framework. Professor Sarah Semple, who is an expert in early medieval archaeology, working on interaction between humans and environment. Professor Semple will share guidance on what makes a strong application and the importance of initial conversations with your potential supervisor. Also joining us today is Ms. Catherine Krause, one of our faculty postgraduate research coordinators. She will be with us throughout our Q&A session after the presentation, and we will answer questions regarding the application process and other practicalities. If you have questions after this session, please feel free to reach out to us via email. The contact is artsandhumanities.pgrteam@durham.ac.uk. Now, I am delighted to hand over to Robert, who will speak on the intellectual landscape of our Transformative Humanities framework. So I stop sharing, and Robert, you should be able to share your presentation.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Durham. There's a nice picture of our cathedral and castle and some of the city in our green and leafy city in the northeast of England. Just say I teach in the Theology and Religion department, and as I'll come to later in a moment, I head up the Environmental Humanities strand of Transformative Humanities. I just want to say a bit about Transformative Humanities and what the university or the Faculty of Arts and Humanities means by Transformative Humanities. I should say this is my personal interpretation, and I didn't devise the idea and I didn't come up with it, but I think what I'm saying is not sort of untruthful to what the faculty means by it. But just to give you a bit of a sense, as we all know, there is a context in which we're now doing the humanities, and I want to bring out a couple of those dimensions. First of all, we're just living in a very uncertain world, a world that's much more threatening than many people have experienced before. As we all know, geopolitics, the rise of populisms, will AI take our jobs, our livelihoods, our lives, climate change, and a host of other kind of overwhelming sets of circumstances that I think for many people are of a different order than they may have experienced before. And that's just leading to a certain level of uncertainty in which we're thinking about. So as I'm sure you'll be familiar with the cliche, we're no longer just facing an era of change, but a change of era. And how we think about what that coming era might be, of course, is going to be really, really important for how we navigate the world going forwards. A second dimension is this. Both government and public interest tend to emphasize the universities being valuable because of the STEM subjects, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the kind of hard sciences and so on, are what get the priority and the privilege in lots of public policy spaces. And just in terms of public perceptions about what universities ever did for us. So vaccines, biotech, AI, digital, manufacturing, engineering, these are the kind of things which are the centre of the current UK industrial strategy. And for a variety of reasons, but amongst them is because for the government at least, economic growth is the name of the game. If we can't find economic growth, then whatever we do will be of less value. And of course, if that is the emphasis, then there's a real question where the arts and humanities fit in. Where do they get a look in if the government's only thinking about STEM? And if the public only really values STEM? My experience quite frequently in relation to environmental humanities and elsewhere is one of the first questions either students or their parents ask, and this is true of the humanities in general, okay, what kind of job are you going to get out of it? Will you actually get a decent paying job at the end of it? The answer I should make very clear emphatically is yes, very definitely. Nevertheless, that's not how it's often publicly perceived. So the sense that humanities are window dressing, that they're hand-wringing, they're what you do in your spare time, reading novels, reading history, whatever it is, it can give the sense that arts and humanities are very much on the defensive. Now, I have to say that this is not always, I don't think specialists in humanities are always their own best allies in this regard. Because we often say, well, why should we provide public accountability or public understanding? Shouldn't we be just doing research for its own sake? Shouldn't we just be pursuing what we're doing? And that way, the common good, the human good, will in the long term be achieved. Now, I think that's probably, as I'll say in a moment, just we as proponents of the humanities are selling ourselves short. And I do think that Transformative Humanities is intended to be a way of making its way through this kind of impasse. So to the STEM-only proponents, I think one wants to say, at least perhaps I'm speaking to the theologian here, you lose your soul if you think that only economic growth counts. There are huge amounts of things about the nature of the human which are really, really important for human flourishing that you lose if you simply emphasize the hard dimensions of economic growth. And equally, I think I'd want to say to the humanities that you're underselling yourselves, that you have gifts of understanding about humanity, about who we are, about what makes us flourish, what motivates us, what matters to us, how we're different from each other, how we understand each other, which everyone needs to know. And in other words, I think there's a whole lot that humanities can give into the public space, into public debates, to help us flourish as a society, as human beings collectively and individually. And I suppose I think that Transformative Humanities is one way of making the humanities understand itself and make itself intelligible to those who see the world through STEM eyes, if I can put it that way. Intelligible to those in the STEM world without actually selling out to the values of the STEM world. In other words, it's a way of expanding the public discourse in a way that says, actually humanities matter, and we don't just matter by the standards which the STEM world requires of us. And I should say also that I do think it's about getting beyond a certain kind of two cultures oppositional mentality, the kind of thing which was bequeathed to us now 7 decades ago by C.P. Snow, the idea that that the arts and humanities on the one side and social science on the one side and the harder sciences on the other are just in opposition. I don't think it's that straightforward, and certainly in my area, it's about a much more positive engagement between all the different parts of the university on what makes us a university as a whole. So we've set ourselves the strapline for Transformative Humanities is this: enriching, shaping, and transforming lives. And I think that's just a really, really helpful way of putting it. It's about addressing people's lives in ways that, as it were, other parts of the university, other parts of the economy, other parts of the polity don't quite reach. And another way of putting what we're about, in fact, we put this in our own faculty plan, is that the mission of Transformative Humanities and the humanities in general is to nurture thoughtful, critical, engaged citizens for a rapidly changing and complex world. And I do think the humanities, in a complex world, those who are not capable of thinking with the kind of flexibility that humanities offers are going to be missing out, and our societies will miss out if we don't have this kind of ability to handle interpretive complexity and understanding difference that I think the humanities precisely bring. And we do that with exactly the engagement with the characteristic tools of the humanities. Critical analysis of the languages, arts, cultures, texts, philosophies, and religions that have shaped the world. And particularly with attention to difference, the difference of time and place, the difference of culture, the difference of ways of seeing, and also through recognition of power. Who's underrepresented, whose perspectives, what kinds of power come in, what kinds of knowledge, and so on. Now, all of that is done in the hope that this will open up new ways of thinking about the future and working our way into it. So the humanities is exactly about orienting ourselves well in the current world with a view to the future as well. Now, it is inherently interdisciplinary. And just going back to my own area of environmental humanities, we won't be able to address the kind of issues that the current environmental crises are giving us if we do it only in disciplinary terms. We have to work across the humanities and social sciences, and with the natural sciences, and the business world as well. Also, Transformative Humanities is methodologically plural, and between these two, interdisciplinarity and plurality of methodology, that's amongst the reasons why we're requiring that applicants have approach supervisors from two different departments, because that's what we think Transformative Humanities is about. It isn't just about learning within one discipline, it's being able to relate that to other disciplines. Now, if you've looked at the website, which I'm imagining you will have done, you will have seen that we've got 6 different areas, 6 different strands or elements within Transformative Humanities. I'm just going to name them. I'm not going to go into them because you can obviously read for yourselves, but just to give them, as well, a shout out in each case: creativity, culture and heritage, digital humanities, environmental humanities, medical humanities, science humanities, and then social justice, communities and policy. Now, obviously, you will want to pursue whichever of those and others. Let's make very clear that Transformative Humanities is not limited to these 6 areas. It is, obviously, it'll include those because those are ones that we've taken a special interest in and have got very strong capacity in. But if you like, Transformative Humanities is more of a mentality rather than a particular subject matter. And I would encourage you to think that. So it's not saying don't do whatever one was doing before. It's saying think about what you're doing in particular kinds of ways. Will what you do enrich, transform lives in the way that I was just mentioning? I just want to say a little bit about environmental humanities, just to round off what I was saying. And this will just give you a sense of what environmental humanities is, crudely as we see it. And this is quite literally what I tell MA students who are MA in Environmental Humanities, but it'll just give you, again, at a very general level, the kind of things that we can contribute. We live in a time of environmental crisis, as we all know. So we know that the sciences can contribute things. We know that technology and engineering and even business may be able to contribute things, but what can the humanities contribute? Well, the answer is things like how people have responded to crises throughout history, across different cultures, how Western responses often been marked by Eurocentric assumptions, and that's made global action much more difficult, how people engage with crisis with their imaginations through literature, how fundamental philosophical questions about the world and our place in it are raised by the environmental crises, Then how theological and religious dimensions of questions about loss and hope and meaning and many other things are raised by the ecological crises. Now, that's just giving you some general sense of how different disciplines can address it. And here are just some current projects, and I'm just naming these as staff projects. We had a very interesting staff day away for about 40 different academics in environmental humanities just a month ago. And we were looking at some current projects. And here's just to name 7 or 8 out of those 40. First of all, extinction as loss of an Umwelt. Animals, the idea being that animals, for example, have their own unique way of seeing the world, which no other species will share. And if that is lost, then that is a genuine loss to the sum total of global experience, of the experience of all nature, and so on. Historically, what about floods, heat, and health in Wuhan? How does that understanding of how Wuhan responded back in the 1930s to experience of severe floods, how does that make a difference to our understanding now? Here's one from the School of Education. How can the early childhood years and the development affect the development of a sense of the natural world? A really important set of issues there. And then a lot of work being done in environmental humanities in relation to indigenous cosmologies, indigenous epistemologies, and so on, in relation to plants. And someone here working, well, how does music make a difference to all of that? Some more. His new project, which I'm slightly involved in, how could understanding games and gaming, in all different senses of that word, how could they make COPs go better? COPs just started today, of course, and we want to think through, okay, how could gaming actually help improve that process? Here's another. What does Newcastle look like from the point of view of a kittiwake? So looking at the more than human world, and how does an urban context look like from that perspective, and therefore what kind of ethical policy making should be taken on that basis? How should we write gardens? A really important sense of aesthetic experience, but much unwritten at the moment. And then finally, this happened to be my own thing. What does it mean to hope? What does it mean for us to hope if optimism is dead? I talked to a lot of students, and their immediate response, how do you feel about climate change? The answer is despair. And on the face of it, there's a lot of grounds for that. And so the question is, what might hope mean in that kind of context? So I could say a lot more, of course, but I will stop sharing there. And that just gives you some sense, both what the Transformative Humanities are about and how the environmental humanities are one specimen of several that we're doing in this faculty. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Robert. Let us now move to Sarah, who will offer tips on how to put together a strong application and how you can develop your conversations with your proposed supervisors.
Thank you, Alberto. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, I hope everyone can see that.
Yes.
Great. My name's Sarah Semple, as Alberto said, and I work in the Department of Archaeology and have had a role as a PhD supervisor with a number of AHRC funded students and collaborative doctoral award students. So what I'm going to say briefly here today is just to talk through how to think about developing a strong PhD proposal when you are thinking of applying to the Transformative Humanities doctoral programme. So the first thing to say is that everyone will have a great idea that they're thinking about in terms of PhD funding. But you've got to think about developing that idea within the context of the Transformative Humanities space. So as Robert's just so clearly outlined, there are 6 thematic areas there, and all of those have plenty of opportunity and space to develop PhD ideas. He also said, very importantly, that it's not limited to these 6 thematic areas. The Transformative Humanities is a shape and space where you could bring your own ideas and themes and approaches to research. However, If we're thinking about developing an application, your first point of departure should really be to look at the 6 themes and to think about how your research or the research you want to do at doctoral level fits within those 6 spaces, or perhaps interleaves or cuts across them. Look really carefully at the description of those areas. So I've put creativity, culture and heritage there, which of course is close to my heart as an archaeologist. But if we look at how that's specified, we can see there the word partnerships with the cultural and heritage sectors, exciting developments in visual arts and creative writing, and emphasis on approaches to the study of ancient and modern artifacts. So take your time to look through the descriptors of these thematic areas and think through how your project might fit or how your approach might sit within them. I'm just going to turn to digital humanities as well, which is an area, again, that I'm very interested in terms of digital approaches to monuments. Here we can see the description is talking about the application of digital methods in humanities and cultural heritage. It might relate to music and computational analysis, or text or images. It might relate to digital phenomena and, of course, the ethics and social implications of AI. So again, think very carefully about the themes and the fit as you begin to develop your application. The other thing I think is absolutely critical, really to underscore some of what Robert said, is when you're developing your PhD idea and vision, you really need to think about it being more than the sum of its parts. Think interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approaches, whether that's in terms of theories or subject areas, techniques or skills. So, I've put together there, perhaps you're coming to your PhD from a background in history relating to text or manuscripts. But what are the things that could make your project transformative and different and original? Is that working within certain sort of visual culture theory, or looking at data mining or computational methods? Think through the opportunities that Durham offers and how that can give your project a distinctive edge in terms of building your approach. So the next step then is to think about the project package, drafting a first proposal. You will have wonderful ideas already, but what I would urge you to think about is that your project should have a clear structure in terms of aims, the context from which the idea is coming from, clear research questions, identified data sets, objectives and methods for how you will go about your research, and of course the skills that you may already have that you bring or that you may need to develop to conduct the project. So in drafting that first proposal, think first about the research context and what makes the project you want to do original and timely and innovative. What are the aims and goals for your research project? The next absolutely critical element to thinking about pitching or drafting a proposal is to think about your research questions. What questions will you ask to get the outcomes you want? What outcomes are you hoping to achieve within the project? Another aspect of writing a strong proposal is to be specific about the data sets that you're building blocks. That might be archives, it might be inscriptions or buildings, or it might be musical scores. But what are the data sets that you absolutely need access to in order to pose your research questions and pursue your research aims? And then objectives, which can be, confusing for people when they think about aims and questions and objectives. Your objectives are the steps you will take with your data sets to answer your research questions. So think about what those steps are. Is that visiting libraries, learning coding, visiting museums, gathering data? And to undertake those steps, what methods will you use? What approaches will you need to apply when you're taking yourself through those objectives to meet your research aims? And finally, just to emphasize, what are you bringing to the project? What's distinctive about your previous research skills and training at undergraduate, at master's level, that are critical elements in terms of the doability of your project. So you might be bringing languages, for example, or a music training, or you might have some digital modeling experience through a master's program. Make sure you demonstrate the skills that you can bring to the project and to really sort of take that research forward. So next, once you have a draft output, an absolutely critical stage in developing your application is to think about your supervisors and a supervisory fit. So I've got there the project, so pyramids, the project at the heart. We've just talked about the fit to the theme in terms of finding the right part of transformative humanities and working to think about your project in that space. But another major element is the fit to the supervisory team as well. And again, think two departments and think multi and interdisciplinary distinctiveness. Your first step must be to approach an expert in the field at Durham. Your primary supervisor should be within arts and humanities or social sciences departments, but your second supervisor can be from a range of different subject areas, computing, maths, engineering, for example. But your first step really should be to get onto the website, to look at the different departments in social sciences and arts and humanities and identify the people you would like to work with in relation to your project that have directly aligned expertise aligned to your field. If you're unsure, you can, of course, contact the address that Alberto gave out later on, but also directors of research postgraduates in departments who can help you, perhaps if you're looking at English or history or archaeology, to think about putting you in touch with the right expertise. We've already talked about that first draft proposal. Have those ideas on paper. Ask the people you're in touch with, the expert you're interested in working with, send that proposal, ask for feedback. And ask them for suggestions for additional supervisory expertise. You should try and arrange to meet and discuss the project online. You've got an opportunity then to talk to people at Durham about distinctive training opportunities, resources that are relevant to your project, whether it's archives or collections or laboratories. What I would caveat that with is be prepared for critical feedback from the people you talk to. They will want to discuss your project and help strengthen it and help think about it within the framework of transformative humanities. Be prepared to go away and modify and strengthen the project, because that's what the advice is for. Be prepared to redraft several times and have several iterations of a proposal in dialogue with the people that you intend to work with. And most of all, listen to people's advice. Everything that you can understand and gather about undertaking a PhD at Durham with particular expertise and resources will help you write the most distinctive application you can, and an application that is aligned to the people and the opportunities that we have at Durham University. The next thing to think about in moving through the process of drafting an application is to think about the fit to resources and training opportunities. So what makes your project and this application distinctive to Durham University or to the region? Are there particular museum collections, manuscripts or archival material that are directly important and relevant to the project that you want to do? And you can broaden that out. That might be regional assets or assets that lie with partners that are connected to Durham University. If you're thinking about the built environment, does Durham World Heritage Site play a place? The staff expertise is, of course, critical. They are the people you will work with and will make your project distinctive. But we also have fantastic laboratories, facilities and collections, whether it's the supercomputer or the library collections or archives like the Sudan Archive or other assets that may be relevant and valuable to the project that you want to undertake. So again, use our websites to think really carefully about the opportunities that can lend that Durham difference to your project and show us that you can really capitalise on the expertise and opportunities that we have within the university and of course beyond, regionally and nationally. And then finally, what training do you need to undertake this project? And this is really important in terms of thinking about what your training needs might be to deliver your PhD project, to meet the aims and objectives that you've set within that project. And to, within your application, tell us what you're bringing already. So how your MA or MSc research has given you a foundational platform for developing this new doctoral level project. What additional training do you have that might be relevant? So that might be in different skill sets, from paleography through to perhaps archaeological methods. But broader experience is also compelling in applications. What publication or communication experience do you have? Perhaps you've written blogs and short podcasts or short public-facing articles. These are things we'd really like to hear about in terms of understanding your experience in the round. You may, of course, have voluntary experience working in museums or in related sectors, and of course, relevant skill sets, from GIS through to and landscape mapping through to perhaps photographic elicitation or working with the public. So tell us about how those skills make you the ideal person to take this project through to completion. And then, of course, think about the additional skills you need and why Durham might be best placed to provide them. So what labs and methods do you need to undertake your research? What training or library resources are essential? Is travel relevant to undertaking the project? Are there national, international assets you might need access to in order to develop your PhD thesis? And of course, thinking about that, is there funding to provide sufficient support for that level of training? Can it be available for free within the Durham setup? Are there potentially some funding requirements around training that you might need to set out? So just in sum then, I've put a series of links on the slides that will be shared that are just pulled from our website, but telling you about some of the distinctive aspects that we have which are relevant to developing PhD theses and proposals within the transformative humanities space. We've got a wonderful archives and special collections, several conservation labs dealing both with the library and special collections and objects. And we've got lists of facilities and equipment on the web that you can take a look at, such as digital and visual laboratories. There, of course, is the Oriental Museum and the Museum of Archaeology and other fantastic collections and assets. But there's also some amazing institutes and centres as well, which host postgraduate sort of research events and development, including the Institute of Medieval and Early Modern Studies, and of course the Centre for Visual Arts and Cultures as well. So look broadly and widely at the ways in which you can bring things together within your PhD proposal that show us that there's a really great interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary project there, but one that is a real fit to our expertise and vision at Durham for the transformative humanities. I think I will end there and hand back to Alberto.
The studentships last for 3.5 years in full time, or 7 years if taken in at part time. Each award offers a tuition fee waiver and an annual stipend at the UKRI rate. For 2025-26, this amount is £20,780, which is like to increase year on year. Since this is a training award, this amount is not regarded as income for tax purposes. The awards also offer dedicated training and research funds. There are placement resources and specialized development and training programs. The scheme this year offers 8 fully funded studentships to candidates commencing their studies in October 2026. 7 of these awards are available to home students, and 1 award is reserved for an overseas student, covering the full overseas tuition fee. To be considered for a Transformative Humanities studentship, your application must meet some eligibility criteria. You must be accepted as a PhD student with a supervisory team where the lead supervisor is based in either the Faculty of Arts and Humanities or the Faculty of Social Sciences, as Sarah also mentioned. In addition, you should check the eligibility criteria of your lead department. You will find these on their website. By the way, the websites of these departments are excellent sources of information to find resources and interests of various potential supervisors. So do spend time on departmental websites. Typically, eligibility includes the requirement to possess or to be on track to achieve a master's degree in a relevant subject. This is a strongly interdisciplinary scheme, and for this reason, your supervisory team must include collaboration across at least 2 departments at Durham University. As Sarah has just mentioned, this requires planning and conversation with your supervisor. So you can just reach out to someone, and on the basis of that, they might also be able to help identify who might be a good collaborator for your project. If you are an international applicant, please ensure they are also familiar with the international entry requirements and, if relevant, the English language requirements. You can find links on the slides that provide information in these areas. As far as the application go, you are required to submit the following documents. A research proposal. The research proposal should define the research questions and the context of your project, should explain the intended approach and methods, as we said, and also should indicate the relevance of the project to transformative humanities. It could fit neatly in one of the themes, or it could touch upon different themes, and these are not prescriptive themes, as we explained today. It should also express the fit of your project with Durham Universities and the resources that are available here and the supervisory team with whom you would like to work. You're also asked to submit a CV. This should outline your education and your relevant experience or skills that you might have acquired. It could be research experience or professional history that might be relevant to your project. We also ask for an equal opportunities monitoring form, which can be submitted online via a link on the main page of the scheme. You should also indicate the names and email contacts of 2 referees who are familiar with your work and who are willing to write in support of your application. It is advisable to reach out to them in good time, ensure that they are able and happy to write for you as referees. Once you submit your application, our system will automatically contact them with instructions on how to submit their reference. I should also say that incomplete applications will not be considered. The application process is simple. First thing to do is to contact potential supervisors to discuss your project. We strongly encourage you to do so as soon as possible. This will allow enough time to develop your project and prepare strong applications. Don't hesitate to reach out to people whom you find, colleagues whom you find on our departmental websites. They will be happy to get back to you and discuss your project or your ideas. You should then submit your complete PhD application online via our applicant portal. by the end of the day on January the 16th, 2026. In the application portal, you'll find a section on funding. Here, under scholarships detail, please select PGR Transformative Humanities from the drop-down menu. So I appreciate that we are giving you a lot of information, lots of details here, just to say that you can access this practical information from the relevant page on our website as well. So this concludes our presentations today.